Picture this. August 2nd, 216 BC, the plains of Cannae in southeastern Italy. Dust rises as 86,000 Roman soldiers, the largest army Rome has ever fielded, march in perfect formation toward Hannibal's 50,000 Carthaginians. Every Roman legionary carries an iron gladius, the short sword that has conquered Italy. Their iron pilum javelins gleam in the summer sun. Their iron-reinforced armor represents the pinnacle of military technology. Rome's iron weapons have made them masters of the Mediterranean. But here's the thing, just 1,300 years earlier, almost nobody had iron weapons. Bronze ruled the ancient world, copper, mixed with scarce tin, monopolized by palace economies and wealthy elites. Then everything changed. In the highlands of Anatolia, Hittite smiths discovered how to extract iron from common rocks, creating metal that was harder, sharper, and available almost anywhere. This discovery would democratize power, collapse empires, transform agriculture, and reshape human civilization. The story of how iron changed the world, from secret Hittite monopoly to the weapons at Cannae, is the story of human ingenuity, catastrophic collapse, and technological revolution that touched every corner of the ancient world. The earliest evidence of deliberate iron production appears around 1500 BC within territories controlled by the Hittite Empire in central Anatolia, modern Turkey. This wasn't accidental iron from meteorites or lucky byproducts of copper smelting. This was systematic, intentional iron extraction from terrestrial ores. The mountainous regions of Anatolia provided abundant iron ore deposits, hematite and magnetite, that became the foundation for this revolutionary technology. At Kalehoyuk in central Turkey, archaeologists have uncovered sophisticated furnace structures representing some of the earliest purpose-built iron smelting installations. These weren't adapted bronze furnaces, they were designed specifically for iron, requiring completely different techniques and much higher temperatures. The bloomery furnaces developed by Hittite smiths operated on principles fundamentally different from bronze working. Bronze melts at around 950 degrees Celsius, but iron requires temperatures exceeding 1150 degrees Celsius just to begin reducing ore into workable metal. The Hittite furnaces featured thick clay walls reinforced with organic temper to withstand extreme heat. Bellows systems operated by human power forced air through ceramic tuyères, tubes inserted into furnace walls, creating the oxygen-rich environment essential for efficient smelting. The process produced a spongy mass called a bloom containing both metallic iron and slag inclusions. Skilled smiths would reheat this bloom and repeatedly hammer it to expel slag, gradually consolidating the iron into workable bars. This labor-intensive process required considerable expertise, which is why early iron production remained concentrated in specialized workshops under royal or temple patronage. The Hittites had discovered something revolutionary, but they weren't about to share it. Iron would remain a carefully guarded state secret, sometimes more valuable than gold, controlled by the empire that discovered it. But that monopoly was about to shatter in the most catastrophic way imaginable. Hittite texts from Boğazköy, the ancient capital Hattusa, reference iron as a precious commodity. Famous correspondence between Hittite king Hattusili III and an Assyrian ruler includes references to iron gifts, suggesting the Hittites carefully controlled distribution of iron objects and possibly the knowledge itself. This wasn't just economic policy, it was strategic. The Hittites understood that iron weapons gave them military advantages over bronze-armed opponents. A Hittite royal letter responds to a request for iron by explaining that it's not a good time for iron making, suggesting seasonal constraints and specialized knowledge. The Hittites were treating iron like nuclear technology, too dangerous to let fall into rival hands. But why was iron superior to bronze? The advantages became apparent gradually through practical application. First, iron ore deposits occurred far more frequently in nature than the tin required for bronze. While copper was relatively abundant, tin sources remained scarce and geographically concentrated: Cornwall in Britain, the Caucasus Mountains, Afghanistan, possibly Thailand. The tin trade routes stretching across continents represented complex networks vulnerable to warfare, political instability, or natural disasters. When tin supplies were disrupted, bronze production collapsed. Iron ore, by contrast, was everywhere. Second, iron tools demonstrated superior edge retention. A properly forged iron blade could maintain sharpness through extended use, while bronze required frequent resharpening. For agricultural implements like plowshares and sickles, this meant consistent cutting performance directly impacting productivity. Iron plowshares could break heavier soils that would damage bronze equivalents, enabling cultivation of previously unsuitable lands. The military applications proved even more significant. Iron spearheads and sword blades possessed greater structural integrity than bronze weapons, reducing catastrophic failure during combat. An iron sword could penetrate bronze armor more effectively, while iron armor provided superior protection against bronze weapons. However, the transition was gradual rather than immediate. Early ironworking produced metal of inconsistent quality. The process of carburization, though not fully understood by ancient smiths, occasionally created steel-like alloys when iron absorbed carbon during smelting or forging. These accidentally produced high-carbon irons demonstrated exceptional hardness and cutting ability, providing glimpses of iron's true potential. Archaeological analysis of early iron artifacts reveals varying carbon content, indicating ancient smiths hadn't yet developed consistent methods for controlling metallurgical properties. The Hittites were pioneering a technology they didn't fully understand, but they knew it was valuable enough to keep secret. That secrecy was about to end in the most violent way possible. Beyond Anatolia, independent iron development emerged in the Caucasus region, the mountainous terrain between the Black and Caspian Seas. Archaeological sites in Georgia, particularly the Samtskhe-Javakheti region, have yielded evidence of iron production dating to approximately 1400 BC. The Caucasian ironworking tradition appears to have developed independently from Hittite techniques, suggesting that the transition to iron represented a technological inevitability rather than a single innovation. When conditions were right, abundant ore, necessary temperatures, skilled craftsmen, multiple societies discovered iron independently. Caucasian smiths developed distinctive furnace designs adapted to local conditions, often built into hillsides to utilize natural draft for achieving high temperatures. Sites like Samtavro and Trialeti in Georgia reveal sophisticated operations producing both tools and weapons, with quality improving rapidly as deliberate heat treatment techniques enhanced metal properties. The Levant emerged as another crucial region for early iron adoption. Excavations at Tel Hammer in Jordan uncovered iron artifacts dating to approximately 1300 BC, indicating technology had reached this region during the Late Bronze Age. The transition appeared gradual, with iron initially serving ceremonial or prestige functions before becoming common utilitarian items. By the 12th century BC, sites like Tel Haror in Israel show evidence of local iron production using bloomery processes, with furnaces demonstrating that Levantine smiths had mastered the technology and were producing iron at significant scales. The archaeological context suggests iron production was integrated into existing bronze-working operations, with smiths adapting facilities and techniques to accommodate the new technology. Trade networks played crucial roles in disseminating ironworking knowledge. Merchant communities, particularly those engaged in metal trading, served as vectors for technological transfer. The complex commercial relationships developed around bronze production provided ready-made channels for introducing iron technology. Then everything collapsed. Around 1200 BC, the carefully maintained palace economies of the Bronze Age began experiencing systematic disruptions. Mysterious maritime raiders appeared along coastlines from Anatolia to Egypt. Carefully maintained trade networks supplying tin from distant sources broke down. Cities burned, empires fell. The Bronze Age collapse, as modern scholars term this period of widespread upheaval, manifested differently across regions but shared common characteristics: urban destruction, population displacement, breakdown of centralized authority. And paradoxically, this catastrophe accelerated iron adoption throughout the eastern Mediterranean. When bronze supply chains collapsed, communities desperately sought alternative sources for metal tools and weapons. Iron's abundance and local availability made it an attractive substitute. The collapse that destroyed the Bronze Age world gave birth to the Iron Age. At Ugarit, the prosperous Syrian port city that had served as a crucial hub for international trade, excavations reveal sudden and violent end around 1185 BC. The royal palace archives, preserved under collapsed masonry, contain frantic correspondence describing approaching enemies and desperate pleas for military assistance that never arrived. A letter from the king of Al-Ashir describes enemy ships ravaging the coastline. Another document records Ugarit's own fleet departing to assist the Hittite Empire, leaving the city defensively vulnerable. Archaeological evidence confirms this narrative. Thick ash layers cover final Bronze Age occupation levels throughout the urban center. The city that had connected Mediterranean trade networks was destroyed so completely it was never rebuilt. Similar patterns appear across the Aegean and Anatolia. Mycenaean palaces, Pylos, Tiryns, Mycenae itself, show violent destruction during the late 13th and early 12th centuries BC. Egyptian sources provide crucial contemporary accounts of maritime raiders known collectively as the Sea Peoples. The mortuary temple of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu contains detailed reliefs describing the pharaoh's battles against these invaders around 1180 BC. The text names specific groups: Peliset, Cheka, Shekelesh, Denayan, Weshesh, describing them as peoples who had destroyed the Hittite Empire and devastated the Levantine coast before advancing toward Egypt. The reliefs depict the Sea Peoples as a diverse coalition employing both naval and land-based warfare. Their ships, with distinctive high prows and sterns decorated with bird heads, appear alongside ox-drawn carts carrying families and possessions, suggesting migration rather than mere raiding. Warriors wear feathered headdresses, carry round shields, and wield long swords, presenting martial appearance distinct from traditional Egyptian or Near Eastern military equipment. The Hittite Empire, which had controlled much of Anatolia and northern Syria for over 3 centuries, collapsed completely during this period. The capital at Hattusa was abandoned around 1180 BC. Unlike sites showing sudden violent destruction, Hattusa appears evacuated in organized manner, valuable objects removed, archives deliberately buried for preservation. The collapse of Hittite authority created a power vacuum that numerous smaller groups rushed to fill, but it also broke the Hittite monopoly on iron technology. The centralized control that had restricted access to iron production techniques disappeared with imperial collapse. Smiths who had worked under palace patronage found themselves free to establish independent workshops or seek employment with emerging local rulers. This decentralization of expertise led to rapid technological diffusion as ironworking knowledge spread to regions previously excluded from advanced metallurgy. The catastrophe that destroyed the Bronze Age world inadvertently democratized iron technology. What had been a closely guarded state secret became available to anyone who could build a furnace and work a bellows. In Greece, the collapse of Mycenaean civilization resulted in what archaeologists termed the Greek Dark Ages, a period characterized by population decline, reduced settlement sizes, and apparent loss of literacy. However, recent archaeological work reveals this period was not uniformly dark. Sites like Lefkandi on Euboea show evidence of continued prosperity and international contacts, including iron artifacts and evidence of local iron production by the 11th century BC. The transition from bronze to iron in post-Mycenaean Greece occurred gradually and unevenly. In Attica, iron objects appear in burial contexts by the 11th century BC, initially as prestige items alongside traditional bronze weapons. The Athenian agora excavations revealed iron knives, spearheads, and fibulae from proto-geometric period burials, indicating elite segments adopted iron technology before it became widely available. The disruption of traditional tin supply routes played crucial roles in accelerating iron adoption. The complex networks that had supplied tin from Afghanistan, Central Asia, and possibly Cornwall required stable political conditions and secure transportation. The collapse of major Bronze Age powers disrupted these networks, making tin increasingly scarce and expensive. Cyprus, which had served as major copper supplier for bronze production, experienced significant upheaval. Sites like Enkomi and Kition reveal destruction levels dating to late 13th and early 12th centuries BC, followed by cultural changes suggesting new populations had settled. These newcomers, possibly including groups identified with sea peoples, brought different technological traditions and may have contributed to spreading iron-working knowledge. The economic disruption caused by Bronze Age collapse created conditions favorable to iron adoption beyond simple resource scarcity. The breakdown of centralized palace economies eliminated institutional barriers that had previously regulated access to metalwork technologies. In the Mycenaean world, bronze production had been tightly controlled by palace administrators managing everything from ore acquisition to finished product distribution. The collapse of this system allowed independent craftsmen to establish production networks and experiment with alternative technologies. The Philistines, identified by many scholars as one of the Sea Peoples groups mentioned in Egyptian sources, established a confederation of city-states along the southern Levantine coast following their unsuccessful invasion of Egypt. Excavations at sites like Ashkelon, Ekron, and Gath revealed distinctive material culture, combining Aegean traditions with local Levantine elements. Significantly, these sites show early adoption of iron technology, with iron artifacts appearing in 12th century BC contexts. The Philistine adoption appears systematic rather than gradual, suggesting they possessed iron-working capabilities from earliest phases of settlement. This technological advantage may have contributed to their military success and ability to establish independent city-states despite pressure from surrounding groups. The technological advantages of iron tools became particularly apparent in challenging environments like the Palestinian highlands. Highland regions of central Palestine, previously sparsely settled, experienced significant population growth during 12th and 11th centuries BC. These highland settlements, which many scholars associate with emergence of early Israelite society, show evidence of iron tool adoption for agricultural purposes, particularly plowshares and farming implements. Iron plowshares could break the rocky Terra Rossa soils, characterizing much of the region far more effectively than bronze implements. This capability enabled cultivation of previously marginal lands, supporting the population growth evident in archaeological records of highland sites during this period. The fragmentation of large territorial states into smaller political entities fundamentally altered dynamics of technological diffusion in the ancient Near East. Where the Hittite Empire had maintained centralized control over iron production, the successor states competed with one another for technological advantages. Competition encouraged innovation and experimentation as smiths sought to develop superior products for their patrons. The city-state of Carchemish, one of the most successful Neo-Hittite entities, maintained extensive trade connections, facilitating spread of iron-working techniques throughout northern Syria and southeastern Anatolia. Excavations revealed sophisticated ironworking installations dating to 11th and 10th centuries BC, including furnaces designed specifically for iron production rather than adapted from bronze working facilities. The transformation of the Eastern Mediterranean world during Late Bronze Age collapse created conditions that fundamentally accelerated the transition from bronze to iron technology. The disruption of established trade networks, collapse of centralized political authority, and emergence of new competitive political entities combined to create environments where technological innovation provided crucial advantages for survival and prosperity. By 1000 BC, iron technology had spread throughout the Mediterranean world and beyond, no longer the monopolized secret of a single empire, but available technology that anyone with access to iron ore and basic metallurgical knowledge could exploit. The democratization of iron production meant that power was no longer determined solely by access to scarce tin sources. A village with local iron ore deposits could now arm itself as effectively as a great empire if its smiths possessed the necessary skills. This technological revolution would transform not just warfare and agriculture, but the very structure of ancient societies. The age of bronze was over. The age of iron had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The collapse of Mycenaean civilization around 1200 BC ushered in the Greek Dark Ages, though recent discoveries reveal this period as far more complex than the term suggests. While great palace centers lay abandoned, smaller communities began slow cultural and technological reconstruction that would eventually give birth to classical Greek civilization. The most striking characteristic was apparent loss of literacy. Linear B script disappeared entirely, leaving no written records for nearly 4 centuries. But archaeological excavations paint a more nuanced picture of gradual transformation rather than total collapse. At Lefkandi on Euboea, excavations revealed remarkable evidence of continued prosperity. At the site's most spectacular discovery, a massive apsidal building dating to around 1000 BC, measuring over 45 meters in length, contained rich burial deposits including gold jewelry, bronze vessels, and iron weapons. The building's construction required sophisticated architectural knowledge and substantial community resources. Iron technology played crucial roles in gradual recovery of Greek civilization during Dark Ages. Archaeological evidence from Athens, Argos, and Knossos shows iron artifacts becoming increasingly common in burial contexts from 11th century BC onward. Initially, iron objects served primarily as prestige items, elaborate iron swords and spearheads appearing in elite warrior graves alongside traditional bronze weapons. The Athenian Kerameikos cemetery provides exceptional documentation of this technological transition. Excavations in proto-geometric levels revealed graves containing both bronze and iron weapons, with iron gradually becoming more prevalent. The quality of ironwork improved significantly during this period, with smiths developing techniques for producing consistently harder and more durable weapons than bronze predecessors. The production of iron in Dark Age Greece appears initially concentrated in specific regions with access to ore sources or specialized knowledge. The island of Euboea, with iron deposits in the Durfes Mountains, emerged as major center of iron production and trade. Archaeological surveys identified numerous slag heaps and furnace remains dating to 10th and 9th centuries BC, indicating large-scale smelting operations supplying communities throughout central Aegean. The gradual improvement in ironworking techniques reflected both technological experimentation and accumulation of practical experience. Early Greek iron artifacts show considerable quality variation, suggesting smiths were still learning to control complex processes. By 9th century BC, however, Greek ironwork had achieved sophistication comparable to contemporary products from established metallurgical centers in Anatolia and the Levant. The demographic recovery beginning during later Dark Ages created conditions favorable for renewed urban development. Archaeological surveys across Greece reveal substantial increases in settlement numbers and sizes beginning around 900 BC. This population growth coincided with improvements in agricultural productivity, partly attributable to adoption of iron plowshares and farming tools that could work heavier soils more effectively than bronze implements. The emergence of the Greek polis system during 8th and 7th centuries BC represented fundamental innovation in political organization that would profoundly influence subsequent Western political thought. Unlike centralized palace kingdoms of Bronze Age, the polis was conceived as a community of citizens who participated collectively in governance and military defense. This new political model created unprecedented demands for military equipment and civic infrastructure, driving further innovations in iron technology and urban planning. Athens provides an excellent case study of polis development during the Archaic period. The Athenian agora, or which would become the heart of the classical city's political and commercial life, began taking shape during 8th century BC with simple buildings for public gatherings and religious activities. The Athenian transition to iron technology occurred gradually but systematically during early Archaic period. Excavations in the agora revealed numerous ironworking installations dating to 7th and 6th centuries BC, including furnaces, anvils, and large quantities of slag and production debris. The concentration of metallurgical activity in specific areas suggests iron production was becoming increasingly specialized and organized on larger scales than during Dark Ages. Sparta's development followed markedly different trajectory, reflecting unique geographical and social conditions of Laconian region. The Spartan polis emerged through conquest and incorporation of surrounding territories, creating militarized society that placed exceptional demands on weapons production and military technology. Archaeological evidence from Spartan sites reveals intensive iron production focused primarily on military equipment rather than civilian tools. The Spartan military system that developed during 7th century BC required standardized weapons and armor for its citizen soldiers. Iron spearheads, sword blades, and armor components found at Spartan sites show remarkable consistency in design and quality, indicating centralized production standards ensuring battlefield effectiveness. The famous Spartan shield, made of bronze but reinforced with iron fittings, became symbol of the polis's military prowess throughout Greek world. Corinth's strategic position on the narrow isthmus connecting the Peloponnese to central Greece made it natural center for trade and manufacturing during Archaic period. The city's potters developed distinctive artistic styles exported throughout Mediterranean, while metal workers produced high-quality bronze and iron goods for both domestic use and international trade. Archaeological excavations revealed extensive industrial quarters with evidence of large-scale iron production dating to 7th and 6th centuries BC. The Corinthian iron industry benefited from extensive trade connections providing access to high-quality ores from various sources. Analysis of iron artifacts reveals metal derived from multiple ore sources, including local deposits in Peloponnese and imported materials from Anatolia and Black Sea region. The Great Colonization movement beginning in 8th century BC fundamentally transformed Mediterranean cultural and economic landscape. Greek communities, driven by population pressure, land shortage, and commercial opportunities, established settlements from Western Mediterranean to Black Sea coast. These colonies served not only as outlets for excess population, but also as centers for resource extraction and trade network expansion. Massalia, founded by Phocian Greeks around 600 BC on southern coast of modern France, exemplifies the colonization movement's commercial motivations. The colony's strategic location near the Rhone River mouth provided access to trade routes extending deep into continental Europe, including regions rich in metals and valuable commodities. Archaeological evidence reveals extensive ironworking facilities processing both local ores and imported materials, producing goods for trade with indigenous populations throughout southern Gaul. The establishment of Greek colonies along Black Sea coast opened access to rich iron ore deposits of the Pontic region. Chersonesus, founded on Crimean Peninsula in 6th century BC, became major center for iron production and trade. The colony's workshops processed ores from nearby deposits and manufactured iron tools and weapons for export throughout Greek world. The high quality of Pontic iron made it particularly prized for military applications, with Chersonesus becoming major supplier of weapons to Greek city-states. The colonization movement also facilitated spread of Greek ironworking techniques to indigenous populations. At settlements like Emporion in northeastern Spain and Hemeroscopion on Iberian coast, Greek colonists established workshops producing iron goods using local materials. These operations often employed indigenous workers who learned Greek metallurgical techniques and subsequently established their own production centers. The development of the hoplite system during 7th century BC revolutionized Greek warfare and created new demands for standardized military equipment. The hoplite was heavily armed infantrymen equipped with large round shield, spear, sword, and bronze armor. This military system required iron weapons of consistent quality and durability, driving innovations in metallurgy and weapons manufacturing throughout Greek world. The hoplite spear, typically measuring 2.5 to 3 meters in length, featured iron spearhead designed for thrusting attacks in close formation. Archaeological analysis reveals sophisticated metallurgical techniques, including selective hardening of point and edges, while maintaining softer, more flexible core. This combination provided optimal performance in dense combat formations characteristic of hoplite warfare. The hoplite sword, known as xyphos, represented another significant advancement. These short, double-edged blades were designed for close combat when primary spear was broken. Greek swordsmiths developed techniques for creating blades with hard cutting edges and flexible cores, achieving metallurgical sophistication, rivaling contemporary weapons from any part of ancient world. The production of hoplite equipment required substantial resources and specialized skills, creating new economic opportunities for metalworkers throughout Greek world. Cities like Chalcis on Euboea became renowned for weapons production, with the term Chalcidian becoming synonymous with high-quality iron weapons. The standardization requirements of hoplite warfare drove development of consistent production techniques and quality control measures that advanced overall Greek metallurgy. The tactical advantages provided by iron weapons became particularly apparent in conflicts between Greek city-states and neighbors who still relied primarily on bronze equipment. The superior cutting power and durability of iron weapons gave Greek hoplites significant advantages in battle, contributing to military successes that enabled Greek expansion throughout Mediterranean region. Simultaneously along eastern shores of Mediterranean, in the narrow coastal strip between Lebanon mountains and sea, a collection of city-states had been developing into the ancient world's most sophisticated maritime trading network. The Phoenicians, inheritors of Canaanite Bronze Age traditions, adapted rapidly to new iron technology while maintaining dominance of long-distance commerce through innovations in navigation, shipbuilding, and urban organization. The three great Phoenician city-states of Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos each developed distinct specializations while maintaining cooperative relationships necessary for their collective maritime supremacy. Byblos had established itself as primary intermediary for Lebanese cedar exports and Egyptian papyrus imports during Bronze Age. Archaeological excavations revealed continuous occupation from Neolithic through Roman era, with Iron Age levels showing substantial urban development and evidence of large-scale metalworking operations. The transition to iron technology at Byblos occurred gradually during 11th and 10th centuries BC, with bronze and iron implements appearing together before iron gradually predominated. Excavations uncovered numerous ironworking installations, including furnaces specifically designed for iron smelting rather than adapted from bronze-working facilities. Sidon, located approximately 40 kilometers south of Byblos, emerged as preeminent center for Phoenician glass production and purple dye manufacturing during early Iron Age. The city's workshops produced glass vessels, beads, and decorative objects traded throughout Mediterranean world, while purple dye operations processed millions of murex shells to create costly pigment that became synonymous with royal and aristocratic status. The integration of iron tools into these industrial processes significantly improved productivity and product quality. The purple dye industry at Sidon required enormous quantities of murex shells harvested from offshore beds. Iron knives and scrapers proved far superior to bronze tools for delicate process of extracting dye-producing organs without damaging precious secretions. Archaeological excavations revealed massive accumulations of crushed murex shells alongside iron tools specifically designed for dye production, indicating scale and sophistication of these operations. Tyre, the southernmost of great Phoenician centers, developed into most powerful and influential of city-states during early Iron Age. The city's unique geography, situated on an island connected to mainland by narrow causeway, provided exceptional natural defenses while maintaining easy access to both maritime and terrestrial trade routes. Tyrian merchants established trading posts and colonies throughout Western Mediterranean, creating a commercial network that would eventually span from Spain to Black Sea. Phoenician shipbuilding technology incorporated iron fittings and tools that significantly improved vessel construction and performance. Iron nails and clamps provided stronger joints than traditional bronze equivalents, while iron tools enabled more precise woodworking and hull shaping. The famous Phoenician merchant vessels, known as gaulos, featured broad hulls optimized for cargo capacity rather than speed, with iron reinforcements allowing them to carry heavier loads over longer distances than previous ship designs. The establishment of Carthage around 814 BC marked beginning of Phoenician expansion into Western Mediterranean on unprecedented scale. According to later Roman historical accounts, Carthage was founded by Tyrian colonists, led by Queen Dido. The site chosen for the new city, on a peninsula extending into Bay of Tunis, provided excellent natural harbors and defensive positions while maintaining access to fertile Bagradas River Valley. Early Carthage developed rapidly from trading post into major urban center through systematic application of Phoenician expertise in commerce, manufacturing, and urban planning. Archaeological excavations in the city's Bursa Hill area revealed 8th century BC occupation levels, with evidence of substantial buildings and organized street layouts. Early settlers brought advanced ironworking techniques that enabled production of tools and weapons superior to those available to indigenous Berber populations. The Carthaginian economy during early colonial period was based primarily on trade rather than territorial conquest. Following traditional Phoenician commercial practices, Carthaginian merchants established trading relationships with indigenous populations throughout North Africa, exchanging manufactured goods, including iron tools and weapons, for raw materials such as gold, ivory, and exotic animals. These commercial relationships gradually evolved into more formal political arrangements as Carthage expanded its influence throughout the region. The development of Carthaginian agriculture in fertile valleys surrounding the city represented significant departure from traditional Phoenician reliance on maritime commerce. Carthaginian farmers, many of whom were indigenous Berbers who had adopted Carthaginian culture, developed innovative agricultural techniques that maximized productivity in Mediterranean climate. Iron plowshares and other agricultural implements enabled cultivation of previously marginal lands, supporting population growth and urban expansion. The Carthaginian presence in Spain, centered on the city of New Carthage, provided access to some of the richest mineral deposits in ancient world. The silver mines of Sierra Morena and Rio Tinto region produced enormous quantities of precious metals that funded Carthaginian expansion and military operations. Iron tools and techniques introduced by Carthaginian colonists revolutionized Spanish mining operations enabling extraction of ores from deeper and more complex deposits than had been previously accessible. The gradual expansion of Roman power throughout Italian peninsula during the 4th and 3rd centuries BC inevitably brought Rome into conflict with Carthaginian interests in Western Mediterranean. The First Punic War, which began in 264 BC, originated from disputes over control of Sicily, but quickly escalated into comprehensive struggle for Mediterranean supremacy. The war demonstrated crucial importance of naval power and technological innovations that would determine outcomes of ancient conflicts. Roman development of naval capabilities during First Punic War required rapid adoption of advanced shipbuilding techniques and training of crews capable of operating complex warships. Roman engineers studied captured Carthaginian vessels to understand construction methods, while Roman shipyards worked to produce fleets capable of challenging Carthaginian naval supremacy. The Second Punic War, beginning in 218 BC, represented climactic confrontation between Rome and Carthage for control of the Mediterranean world. Hannibal's famous crossing of Alps with his army, including war elephants, demonstrated Carthaginian strategic innovation and military audacity. The Carthaginian forces that invaded Italy were equipped with finest weapons and equipment available, including iron swords, spears, and armor that had been perfected through centuries of warfare throughout the Mediterranean region. At Cannae, in 216 BC, Hannibal's tactical genius achieved one of history's greatest military victories, encircling and destroying Roman army through brilliant use of infantry and cavalry coordination. But Roman iron weapons, the gladius that could thrust through gaps in enemy lines, the pilum javelin designed to bend on impact, represented culmination of centuries of ironworking innovation. The defeat of Hannibal's forces at Battle of Zama in 202 BC marked end of Carthaginian dominance in Mediterranean. But the real story wasn't just about who won specific battles. The real story was how iron technology had transformed warfare, agriculture, and society throughout the ancient world. From Hittite secrets to democratized technology, from Bronze Age collapse to Roman legions at Cannae, iron had changed everything. It had enabled Greek hoplites to defeat Persian invasions. It had allowed Phoenician merchants to build commercial empires. It had empowered Carthaginian colonists to mine Spanish silver. And it had armed Roman legionaries with weapons that would conquer the Mediterranean world. The transition from bronze to iron wasn't just about better metal, it was about how technology democratizes power, how catastrophe accelerates innovation, and how a simple discovery in Anatolian highlands could reshape human civilization. The Iron Age was just beginning its global transformation. And the story gets even more remarkable when we look beyond Mediterranean to see how iron revolutionized societies from Celtic Europe to Scythian steppes, from Indian subcontinent to Chinese kingdoms, from African highlands to Germanic forests. The age of iron was truly becoming global. Across Alps and beyond familiar territories of classical civilization, another Iron Age culture had been developing sophisticated metallurgical traditions and expanding across vast territories of Europe. The Celtic peoples emerging from temperate forests and river valleys of Central Europe had been mastering iron technology and creating distinctive artistic traditions that would influence European culture for centuries. The Hallstatt culture, named after Austrian lakeside village where archaeologists first identified characteristic artifacts, represented earliest phase of Celtic Iron Age development. Beginning around 800 BC, this culture emerged in region encompassing modern Austria, southern Germany, eastern France, and parts of Switzerland and Czech Republic. The geographical heart of Hallstatt culture lay in mineral-rich territories of eastern Alps where abundant iron ore deposits and salt mines provided economic foundation. The Hallstatt salt mines located in Salzkammergut region of Austria have yielded extraordinary archaeological evidence of early Celtic industrial capabilities. Preservation conditions within salt mines maintained organic materials that would normally decay, providing unprecedented insights into Hallstatt daily life and technology. Excavations recovered wooden mining tools, leather caps and clothing, rope made from plant fibers, and even preserved remains of miners who died in ancient cave-ins. The mining operations at Hallstatt required sophisticated engineering and organizational capabilities. Celtic miners constructed elaborate wooden support systems to prevent tunnel collapses, while bronze and iron tools enabled them to extract salt from increasingly deep underground chambers. The scale of operations is evident from massive spoil heaps surrounding ancient mine entrances, indicating continuous extraction over several centuries. Iron tools revolutionized salt mining productivity at Hallstatt. Iron picks and hammers could break through rock formations that would have dulled or broken bronze implements, while iron-reinforced wooden handles provided greater durability under constant stress. The superior cutting power enabled miners to carve more precise tunnels and chambers, reducing risk of structural failures that had plagued earlier mining efforts. The wealth generated by salt production and iron ore extraction supported development of stratified Hallstatt society with distinct social classes and specialized craft production. Archaeological excavations at Hallstatt period sites reveal substantial differences in burial practices and grave goods that reflect social hierarchies based on control of mineral resources and trade networks. Elite burials contain elaborate bronze and iron weapons, imported luxury goods, and evidence of feasting activities demonstrating concentration of wealth among warrior aristocracy. The Hallstatt cemetery itself, discovered in 1846, contained over 2,000 burials spanning several centuries. The graves range from simple inhumations with minimal grave goods to elaborate chamber tombs filled with weapons, jewelry, and imported artifacts. The richest burials, dating to 7th and 6th centuries BC, contained iron swords with decorated bronze hilts, bronze vessels imported from Italy, and amber ornaments from Baltic region, indicating extensive trade connections throughout Europe. The development of distinctive Hallstatt ironworking traditions built upon earlier Bronze Age metallurgical knowledge while incorporating innovations that improved both quality and quantity of iron production. Hallstatt smiths developed furnace designs specifically adapted to local ore types and fuel sources, achieving temperatures and reduction conditions that produced consistently high-quality iron. The characteristic Hallstatt iron sword, known as Hallstatt Type C sword, represented significant advancement in European weapon technology. These swords featured long, straight blades designed for both cutting and thrusting attacks, with bronze hilts decorated in distinctive geometric patterns. Metallurgical analysis of surviving examples reveals sophisticated techniques for creating blades with hard cutting edges and flexible cores, achieving performance rivaling contemporary weapons from more established metallurgical centers. The expansion of Hallstatt influence throughout Central Europe occurred through combination of population movement, trade relationships, and cultural diffusion that spread Celtic languages, technologies, and artistic traditions across vast territories. Archaeological evidence indicates Hallstatt communities established settlements in regions far from original Alpine heartland, carrying with them knowledge and techniques enabling local iron production and adoption of Celtic cultural practices. The Höneberg, located in southwestern Germany along Upper Danube River, exemplifies urban development characterizing later Hallstatt culture. This fortified settlement, occupied from 7th to 5th centuries BC, featured sophisticated defensive walls constructed with Mediterranean-inspired masonry techniques. Excavations revealed evidence of large-scale iron production, craft specialization, and long-distance trade connecting Celtic world with Greek and Etruscan civilizations. The transition from Hallstatt to Latin culture around 450 BC marked significant transformation in Celtic artistic expression and technological capabilities. Latin culture, named after site on Lake Neuchâtel in Switzerland, developed distinctive art styles combining Celtic traditions with influences from Greek, Etruscan, and Eastern European cultures, encountered through expanded trade networks and population movements. The Latin artistic revolution manifested most dramatically in metalwork, where Celtic craftsmen developed flowing curvilinear designs that departed radically from geometric patterns characteristic of Hallstatt art. Latin metalworkers created elaborate spirals, complex patterns, stylized animal forms, and abstract motifs that would become synonymous with Celtic culture. The technical sophistication required to produce these intricate designs reflected advances in metallurgical techniques and artistic training that elevated Celtic craftsmanship to new achievement levels. The famous Battersea Shield discovered in River Thames near London exemplifies artistic and technical achievements of Latin metalworkers. This bronze shield, decorated with flowing patterns executed in repoussé technique, features complex designs requiring exceptional skill in both artistic conception and metalworking execution. The shield's construction incorporated iron reinforcements, providing structural strength while maintaining decorative bronze surfaces displaying owner's wealth and status. Latin swordsmiths developed new weapon designs reflecting both technological innovations and changing military tactics. The Latin long sword, typically measuring 70-80 centimeters in length, featured straight double-edged blade designed primarily for slashing attacks. These swords required advanced metallurgical techniques to create blades combining flexibility with cutting power, while elaborate scabbards demonstrated artistic sophistication of Celtic decorative traditions. Celtic social organization during Latin period centered around warrior aristocracies controlling territorial kingdoms and maintaining power through military prowess and patronage of skilled craftsmen. Archaeological evidence from elite burial sites reveals central importance of weapons and warrior equipment in Celtic society, with elaborate grave goods including complete sets of military equipment alongside symbols of political and religious authority. The Vix burial discovered in Burgundy, France, represents one of most spectacular examples of Celtic elite culture during transition from Hallstatt to Latin periods. The burial chamber, dating to around 500 BC, contained remains of women, accompanied by massive bronze crater weighing over 200 kilograms, along with gold jewelry, bronze vessels, and iron weapons. The crater, likely manufactured in Greek workshop, demonstrates extensive trade connections linking Celtic elites with Mediterranean civilizations. The role of iron tools in Celtic agricultural expansion cannot be overstated. Iron plowshares enabled Celtic farmers to cultivate heavy, fertile soils of northern Europe that had been largely inaccessible to Bronze Age agriculture. The superior cutting power and durability of iron agricultural implements supported population growth and territorial expansion that carried Celtic culture from Ireland to Anatolia over the course of several centuries. Celtic ironworking techniques varied considerably across different regions, reflecting local ore sources, fuel availability, and cultural preferences. In areas with abundant bog iron, such as Ireland and northern Britain, Celtic smiths developed specialized techniques for processing this distinctive ore type. Bog iron, formed through natural processes in wetland environments, required different smelting approaches than hard rock ores common in alpine regions, leading to regional variations in furnace design and production methods. The spread of Celtic peoples across Europe during Latin period created vast network of related cultures sharing common languages, artistic traditions, and technological practices, while maintaining regional distinctiveness. Celtic expansion reached greatest extent during 4th and 3rd centuries BC, with Celtic settlements extending from Atlantic coasts of Ireland and Spain to Black Sea region and central Anatolia. The Celtic migration into Italian peninsula during 4th century BC brought them into direct contact with Roman civilization, providing opportunities for technological and cultural exchange. Celtic warriors, known to Romans as Gauls, established settlements in Po Valley and periodically raided Roman territories, creating military pressures that influenced Roman military development and political organization. The famous sack of Rome by Brennus in 387 BC demonstrated Celtic military capabilities and effectiveness of their iron weapons against Roman forces. Beyond Rhine and Danube rivers in vast forests and plains of northern Europe, different groups were developing their own distinctive approaches to iron technology and social organization. The Germanic peoples, emerging from complex interactions between indigenous Bronze Age populations and migrating groups from Scandinavia and Eastern Baltic, created cultural traditions that would fundamentally reshape European political landscape. The Jastorf culture, which archaeologists recognize as earliest clearly Germanic cultural complex, emerged around 500 BC in regions between Elbe and Oder rivers, encompassing much of modern northern Germany and southern Denmark. Jastorf settlements differed markedly from fortified hill forts characteristic of Celtic territories. Germanic communities typically established villages in river valleys and coastal plains, constructing longhouses that could accommodate extended families along with livestock and stored grain. The ironworking traditions that developed within Jastorf culture demonstrated clear technological competence while maintaining distinctive regional characteristics. Germanic smiths established workshops within or adjacent to settlements, rather than in specialized industrial centers, indicating iron production was integrated into community life rather than controlled by centralized authorities. Excavations at Jastorf period sites uncovered furnaces designed for small-scale but efficient iron production, typically capable of processing local bog iron ores abundant throughout North European plain. Bog iron formed through chemical precipitation in wetland environments required different processing techniques than hard rock ores exploited by Mediterranean civilizations. Germanic smiths developed specialized knowledge for identifying high-quality bog iron deposits and extracting ore nodules from marshy ground. The smelting process involved roasting bog iron to remove moisture and organic impurities before reduction in low-shaft furnaces operating at temperatures between 1100 and 1200 degrees C. The distinctive cremation burial practices of Jastorf culture provide crucial insights into Germanic social organization and religious beliefs. Unlike elaborate inhumation burials characteristic of contemporary Celtic societies, Germanic communities typically cremated their dead and buried ashes in ceramic urns within flat cemeteries. The grave goods accompanying these burials were generally modest, consisting primarily of personal ornaments, tools, and ceramic vessels, rather than weapons and imported luxury items found in Celtic elite burials. The standardization evident in Jastorf burial practices suggests relatively egalitarian social structures during early Germanic Iron Age. While some burials contain more elaborate grave goods, differences are far less pronounced than those observed in contemporary Celtic or Mediterranean societies. This pattern indicates Germanic communities had not yet developed pronounced social hierarchies characterizing their neighbors, though subtle distinctions in burial treatment suggest emerging differences in wealth and status. Germanic weapon technology during Jastorf period emphasized functionality over ornamentation, reflecting both practical needs of warrior societies and limited resources available for luxury production. Iron spearheads, typically measuring 20-30 centimeters in length, featured leaf-shaped blades designed for both thrusting and throwing attacks. The relationship between Germanic tribes and expanding Roman Empire became increasingly important during 2nd and 1st centuries BC as Roman territorial expansion brought Germanic populations into direct contact with Mediterranean civilization. The Cimbrian War, which erupted in 113 BC when Cimbri and Teutones migrated southward from homelands in modern Denmark and northern Germany, provided first major test of Germanic military capabilities against Roman legions. In the Germanic migration triggering Cimbrian War appears to have resulted from combination of climatic deterioration, population pressure, and political instability in northern Europe. Archaeological evidence from Jutland indicates significant environmental stress during late 2nd century BC, including flooding, crop failures, and abandonment of previously productive agricultural areas. The Cimbri and Teutones, accompanied by allied tribes including Ambrones, represented formidable military force equipped with iron weapons and organized according to Germanic warrior traditions. Roman sources describe these warriors as physically imposing fighters, employing tactics emphasizing individual combat prowess and psychological intimidation. Their weapons included long iron swords, spears, and distinctive shields decorated with bronze fittings and painted designs. The initial encounters between Germanic forces and Roman legions demonstrated effectiveness of Germanic weapons and tactics against traditional Roman military formations. At Battle of Arausio in 105 BC, combined Germanic army virtually annihilated 2 Roman consular armies, killing estimated 80,000 Roman soldiers and capturing vast quantities of military equipment. The eventual Roman victory over Cimbri and Teutones, achieved by Marius at battles of Aquae Sextiae and Vercelli in 102 to 101 BC, demonstrated Roman adaptability and advantages of professional military organization over tribal warrior societies. However, Germanic tribes' performance in these conflicts established their reputation as formidable opponents and influenced subsequent Roman military reforms and frontier policies. The establishment of Roman frontiers along Rhine and Danube rivers during 1st century BC created permanent boundary between Roman world and Germanic territories beyond. This frontier zone became region of intensive cultural and economic exchange, with Germanic tribes adopting Roman technologies and practices while maintaining distinctive cultural identities. Archaeological evidence from sites along Roman frontier reveals extensive trade in iron tools, weapons, and luxury goods, flowing in both directions across imperial boundary. The influence of iron technology extended far beyond Europe. On Eurasian steppes, Scythian peoples who dominated from 8th to 3rd centuries BC developed perhaps most distinctive and influential nomadic culture of ancient world. Their mastery of iron technology, particularly in weapons production and horse equipment, enabled them to establish dominance over vast territories and maintain complex relationships with sedentary civilizations along their borders. The development of iron technology in Indian subcontinent followed distinctly different trajectory from contemporary developments in Mediterranean world and Central Asia. Archaeological evidence indicates ironworking techniques reached Indian subcontinent around 1000 BC, probably through contact with iron-producing regions in Central Asia or Iranian Plateau. However, Indian metal workers quickly developed their own distinctive approaches to iron production, taking advantage of local ore sources and environmental conditions. The earliest evidence of ironworking in India appears at sites in Ganges River Valley, including Atranjikera in Uttar Pradesh and Jakera in Rajasthan. These sites, dating to approximately 1000 BC, contain iron artifacts, including tools, weapons, and agricultural implements, demonstrating local production rather than importation. The abundant iron ore deposits of peninsular India, particularly in regions that would later become Karnataka, Odisha, and Jharkhand, provided raw materials for extensive iron production, supporting population growth and territorial expansion. The high-grade hematite and magnetite ores found in these regions were ideally suited to bloomery smelting techniques Indian metalworkers developed, producing consistently high-quality iron that could be forged into superior tools and weapons. The development of wood steel production in southern India represents one of most significant metallurgical achievements of ancient world. Wood steel produced through techniques creating high-carbon steel with distinctive crystalline structures demonstrated properties surpassing contemporary iron and steel products from other regions. The production process involved melting iron with organic materials in sealed crucibles, creating steel ingots that could be forged into blades of exceptional sharpness and durability. The reputation of Indian steel extended throughout ancient world, with Wootz steel ingots being exported to regions as distant as Damascus and Toledo, where local smiths forged them into weapons renowned for quality. The famous Damascus steel blades that became legendary throughout medieval world were actually produced from Indian Wootz steel using Middle Eastern forging techniques. The superiority of Indian steel resulted from combination of high-quality ores, sophisticated smelting techniques, and accumulated knowledge of generations of skilled metalworkers. Archaeological excavations at Kodumanal in Tamil Nadu revealed extensive evidence of iron and steel production dating to 3rd century BC through 3rd century AD. The site contained numerous furnaces, anvils, and other metalworking equipment, along with large quantities of slag and production debris, indicating large-scale operations. The discovery of crucible fragments containing steel residues provides direct evidence of high-temperature processes used to produce carbon-rich alloys characterizing Indian steel production. The integration of iron technology into Indian agricultural practices supported demographic and territorial expansion, characterizing later Vedic period and emergence of great Indian empires. Iron plowshares enabled farmers to cultivate heavy alluvial soils of Ganges Valley more effectively than bronze implements, supporting population densities necessary for urban development and complex political organization. The Chinese adoption and development of iron technology occurred somewhat later than in Western regions, but proceeded with characteristic thoroughness and innovation. Archaeological evidence indicates ironworking techniques reached China during 8th century BC, probably through contact with Central Asian peoples who had acquired technology from Western sources. However, Chinese metalworkers quickly developed distinctive approaches to iron production, incorporating innovations in furnace design, bellows systems, and casting techniques. The transition from Bronze Age to Iron Age in China occurred during Eastern Zhou period, beginning around 770 BC with establishment of Zhou capital at Luoyang. This period witnessed fundamental changes in Chinese society, including development of new philosophical schools, emergence of territorial states, and adoption of iron technology for both military and civilian purposes. Chinese iron production techniques incorporated several innovations, distinguishing them from contemporary practices in other regions. Chinese smiths developed blast furnace technology that could achieve temperatures high enough to melt iron completely, enabling production of cast iron objects impossible to create using bloomery techniques. The earliest Chinese blast furnaces, dating to approximately 500 BC, featured sophisticated air circulation systems powered by water-driven bellows maintaining high temperatures necessary for iron melting. The ability to cast iron enabled Chinese metalworkers to produce objects that would have been extremely difficult or impossible to forge, including complex agricultural tools, cooking vessels, and architectural fittings. Cast iron plowshares produced in standardized molds could be manufactured much more efficiently than forged equivalents, while providing superior performance in Chinese agricultural conditions. Chinese weapon technology during Eastern Zhou period incorporated iron in ways reflecting both practical military requirements and aesthetic traditions of Chinese craftsmanship. The characteristic Chinese sword known as jian featured straight double-edged blade with elaborate bronze or iron fittings demonstrating owner's wealth and status. The development of crossbow technology in China during 4th century BC represented significant military innovation, incorporating iron components in crucial functional roles. Chinese crossbows featured iron triggers, stirrups, and bolt heads, providing superior performance compared to earlier all-bronze or all-wood designs. The mass production of crossbow bolts with standardized iron heads enabled Chinese armies to maintain consistent ammunition supplies during extended campaigns, providing significant tactical advantages over opponents equipped with individually crafted weapons. The philosophical schools emerging during Eastern Zhou period, including Confucianism, Taoism and legalism, developed within context of rapid technological and social change, including widespread adoption of iron technology. These philosophical traditions addressed questions about social organization, political authority, and individual conduct arising partly from disruptions caused by technological innovation and military competition between rival states. The development of iron technology in Africa occurred through processes largely independent of Mediterranean and Asian influences, creating distinctive metallurgical traditions supporting some of the most significant population movements and cultural transformations in human history. The Nok culture of central Nigeria represents earliest known ironworking civilization in sub-Saharan Africa, with archaeological evidence indicating sophisticated metallurgical operations by 1000 BC. Named after village where first artifacts were discovered in 1928, Nok culture extended across vast area of Jos Plateau and surrounding regions, encompassing territories stretching from Benue River Valley northward to edges of Sahel. The geographical extent of Nok influence, covering approximately 78,000 square kilometers, indicates level of cultural integration and technological diffusion requiring sophisticated communication networks. Archaeological excavations at Nok sites revealed furnace installations demonstrating advanced understanding of iron smelting principles adapted to local conditions and materials. The furnaces discovered at sites like Taruga, dating to approximately 800 to 400 BC, featured cylindrical clay construction with internal diameters ranging from 50-60 centimeters and heights exceeding 1 meter. These installations incorporated sophisticated air circulation systems with multiple tuyères positioned at strategic points around furnace circumference, ensuring optimal oxygen flow during smelting process. The clay used in Nok furnace construction was carefully prepared with organic temper, providing thermal shock resistance and structural integrity under extreme temperatures required for iron reduction. Analysis of furnace fragments reveals temperatures exceeding 200 degrees achieved through use of forced draft bellows systems, maintaining consistent airflow throughout extended smelting operations. The tools and weapons produced by Nok smiths demonstrate metallurgical capabilities equaling or exceeding contemporary ironworking traditions in other regions. Iron hoes, axes, and knives found at Nok sites show evidence of sophisticated forging techniques, creating optimal hardness distributions for specific functional requirements. Agricultural implements featured hard cutting edges with softer, more flexible cores, preventing catastrophic failure during use, while weapons incorporated design elements maximizing penetrating power and structural durability. The famous Nok terracotta sculptures, which have made the culture renowned throughout archaeological world, were produced using iron tools, enabling unprecedented precision in clay modeling and surface finishing. The sculptural tradition, creating life-sized human figures with elaborate hairstyles, jewelry, and clothing, demonstrates sophisticated artistic capabilities and complex social organization. The production of these sculptures required iron tools for clay preparation, detailed carving, and surface texturing that would have been impossible to achieve using stone or bronze implements. Distribution of Nok artifacts across central Nigeria reveals trade networks connecting iron-producing centers with communities throughout region. Iron tools and weapons found at sites hundreds of kilometers from known smelting locations indicate systematic distribution systems spreading Nok technological innovations across diverse ecological zones. The Bantu expansion represents one of most significant demographic and cultural transformations in African history, involving gradual spread of Bantu-speaking populations from their original homeland in Cameroon-Nigeria border region across most of Central, Eastern, and Southern Africa. This expansion, which began around 1000 BC and continued for over a millennium, was closely associated with spread of iron technology, agricultural innovations, and distinctive cultural practices fundamentally transforming societies and landscapes of sub-Saharan Africa. The original Bantu homeland, located in grasslands and forest margins of modern Cameroon and southeastern Nigeria, provided environmental conditions favoring development of mixed farming systems combining crop cultivation with livestock management. Archaeological evidence from early Bantu sites indicates these communities had developed sophisticated agricultural techniques using iron tools by approximately 1000 BC. The initial phases of Bantu expansion involved movement eastward along northern margins of equatorial forest, with early Bantu communities establishing settlements in Ubangi River Valley and northern edges of Congo Basin. These pioneering communities carried with them ironworking knowledge, agricultural techniques, and cultural practices, enabling them to adapt successfully to new environmental conditions while maintaining distinctive identity. Archaeological sites dating to early 1st millennium BC in Central African Republic and southern Chad contain iron artifacts and pottery styles, demonstrating clear connections to original Bantu homeland. The iron technology carried by expanding Bantu communities included both technical knowledge necessary for ore identification and smelting and social organization required to support specialized metalworking activities. Bantu smiths developed furnace designs adapted to diverse ore types and fuel sources encountered during expansion, creating regional variations in smelting techniques while maintaining core technological principles. The agricultural systems developed by Bantu communities incorporated iron tools in ways maximizing productivity in tropical African environments. Iron hoes and axes enabled more efficient forest clearance and soil preparation than stone tools, while iron knives and sickles improved harvesting efficiency for both wild and domesticated plants. The development of yam cultivation, which became staple crop throughout much of Bantu Africa, was facilitated by iron-digging tools that could penetrate hard soils and extract tubers without damage. The expansion of Bantu communities southward through equatorial forest regions required adaptations to environmental conditions differing significantly from their original savanna homeland. The dense forest canopy, high humidity, and different soil types of Congo Basin presented challenges Bantu settlers overcame through innovations in agricultural techniques, settlement organization, and technological adaptation. Iron tools proved particularly valuable for forest clearance, enabling Bantu communities to create agricultural plots within forest environment. Archaeological evidence from early Bantu sites in equatorial forest reveals sophisticated approaches to environmental management combining controlled burning, selective tree removal, and soil enrichment techniques. The emergence of early ironworking sites in Great Lakes region of East Africa, including locations in modern Uganda, Rwanda, and western Tanzania, demonstrates eastward expansion of Bantu communities and iron technology during early centuries AD. Sites like Ntusi in western Uganda dating to approximately 400 AD contain evidence of sophisticated iron production, including furnaces, slag heaps, and finished iron tools indicating well-established metallurgical traditions. The quality and quantity of iron artifacts from these sites suggest Bantu metalworkers had successfully adapted techniques to East African ore sources and environmental conditions. The interaction between expanding Bantu communities and indigenous populations throughout Central and Eastern Africa created opportunities for technological exchange and cultural synthesis, enriching both groups. The expansion of Bantu communities into southern Africa during early centuries AD brought iron technology to regions that had previously relied on stone tool technologies. At the archaeological site of Broederstroom in South Africa, dating to approximately 300 AD, provides evidence of early Bantu settlement with ironworking capabilities, pottery traditions, and agricultural practices, demonstrating clear connections to northern Bantu communities. The establishment of iron production in southern Africa enabled population growth and territorial expansion that would continue for centuries. The development of cattle-keeping traditions within expanding Bantu communities created new demands for iron tools and transformed both economic systems and social organization. Iron spearheads and knives became essential equipment for cattle management, while iron tools enabled construction of cattle enclosures and processing of animal products. The role of iron tools in enabling Bantu agricultural expansion cannot be overstated. Iron hoes proved particularly effective for cultivating diverse soil types encountered across sub-Saharan Africa, from lateritic soils of forest regions to sandy soils of savannas and clay soils of river valleys. The superior cutting power and durability of iron tools enabled Bantu farmers to clear new agricultural land more efficiently and maintain productive fields over longer periods than would have been possible using stone implements. The development of iron-based agricultural systems supported population densities, enabling emergence of more complex political organizations throughout Bantu Africa. Archaeological evidence from sites like Sanga in Democratic Republic of Congo, dating to approximately 800 or 1000 AD, reveals social stratification and craft specialization, indicating development of chiefdom-level political organization. Elite burials at Sanga contain elaborate iron weapons, copper ornaments, and imported goods demonstrating concentration of wealth and development of long-distance trade networks. The establishment of ironworking centers throughout Bantu Africa created networks of technological exchange, spreading innovations across vast distances. Specialized smelting techniques developed in one region were transmitted to other areas through movement of skilled smiths, intermarriage between communities, and trade relationships connecting distant settlements. The sophisticated trade networks that had connected Asian civilizations through Silk Road represented just one facet of Iron Age technological diffusion across ancient world. Simultaneously across vast continent of Africa, independent centers of iron production were emerging that would fundamentally transform demographic, cultural, and political landscape of sub-Saharan regions through processes largely independent of Mediterranean and Asian influences. The technological mastery enabling Bantu communities to transform landscapes of sub-Saharan Africa through iron-based agriculture and metallurgy was simultaneously revolutionizing another civilization that would come to dominate Mediterranean world and much of Europe. On Italian peninsula, Roman Republic was developing military and engineering capabilities proving unmatched in ancient world, built upon systematic exploitation of iron technology and innovative approaches to standardization, logistics, and territorial administration. The early Roman Republic inherited metallurgical traditions from Etruscan neighbors and Greek colonists in southern Italy, but Roman military demands and territorial ambitions drove innovations in iron production exceeding anything achieved by previous Mediterranean civilizations. The establishment of Roman hegemony over Italian peninsula during 4th and 3rd centuries BC required systematic production of standardized weapons and equipment for increasingly large armies, creating pressures for technological innovation and industrial organization, transforming Roman society and economy. The Roman military revolution began with adoption of manipular tactics during 4th century BC, replacing earlier phalanx system inherited from Greek military traditions. The manipular system divided Roman legions into smaller tactical units called maniples, each consisting of 120 men equipped with standardized weapons and armor. This tactical innovation required unprecedented quantities of iron weapons produced to consistent specifications. The Roman gladius, the short sword becoming synonymous with legionary warfare, represented masterpiece of practical weapon design optimized for close combat in disciplined formations. Measuring approximately 60-70 centimeters in length, the gladius featured straight double-edged blade with pronounced point designed for thrusting attacks. Archaeological analysis of surviving examples reveals sophisticated metallurgical techniques, creating blades with hard cutting edges and flexible cores, achieving optimal performance through careful control of carbon content and heat treatment. Roman weapon production. During Republic period incorporated systematic approaches to standardization, enabling mass production while maintaining consistent quality. Archaeological excavations at Roman military sites uncovered workshop areas with evidence of specialized tool production, including dies and templates used to ensure dimensional consistency across multiple production runs. The standardization of weapon specifications enabled Roman armies to maintain supply chains, equipping legions deployed across vast territories with interchangeable equipment and replacement parts. The pilum, heavy javelin serving as primary missile weapon for Roman legionaries, demonstrated innovative design principles, maximizing battlefield effectiveness through clever metallurgical engineering. The pilum featured long iron shank attached to wooden shaft, with iron portion designed to bend upon impact, preventing enemy reuse. Roman armor production evolved from simple mail shirts to sophisticated segmented armor systems, providing superior protection while maintaining mobility and comfort during extended campaigns. The lorica segmentata, which became standard equipment for legionaries during 1st century AD, consisted of iron plates joined with bronze hinges and leather straps in design distributing weight evenly across soldiers' torso. The production of segmented armor required advanced metalworking techniques, including precise cutting, forming, and joining of multiple iron components. The engineering achievements enabling Roman territorial expansion and urban development depended fundamentally on iron tools exceeding capabilities of any previous civilization. Roman engineers developed specialized iron tools for construction, surveying, and infrastructure development, enabling systematic conquest and administration of territories stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. Roman road construction, creating transportation networks facilitating military movement and commercial exchange throughout empire, required iron tools capable of cutting through diverse terrain types and geological formations. Roman road builders used iron picks, shovels, and cutting tools to excavate roads, quarry stone, and shape building materials with precision, ensuring consistent road quality across thousands of kilometers. The Via Appia, constructed beginning in 312 BC, demonstrated Roman engineering capabilities depending entirely on superior iron tool technology. Roman aqueduct construction represented perhaps most sophisticated hydraulic engineering achievement of ancient world, requiring iron tools and techniques enabling precise surveying, stone cutting, and pipe fitting across distances exceeding 100 kilometers. The Aqua Claudia, completed in 52 AD, transported water from mountain springs to Rome through system of channels, bridges, and underground conduits, maintaining consistent gradients over its entire 69-kilometer length. The arch construction techniques, becoming characteristic of Roman monumental architecture, depended on iron tools that could shape stone blocks to precise tolerances required for structural stability. Roman stonemasons used iron chisels, points, and finishing tools, enabling them to create complex curved surfaces and fitted joints, distributing loads effectively throughout architectural structures. The Pantheon in Rome, with its massive concrete dome spanning 43 meters, required iron tools for both precise stone cutting and construction of wooden forms used to shape concrete during construction. Roman concrete technology, enabling construction of massive structures like Colosseum and Baths of Caracalla, incorporated iron reinforcements and required iron tools for mixing, placement, and finishing. Roman engineers developed hydraulic concrete formulations using volcanic ash, creating structures of unprecedented durability, while iron tools enabled precise placement and finishing, ensuring optimal structural performance. The economic foundation of Roman territorial expansion rested on systematic exploitation of mineral resources throughout the Mediterranean world, with iron mining operations exceeding scale and sophistication of any previous civilization. Roman mining engineers developed techniques for deep shaft mining, hydraulic extraction, and ore processing, enabling exploitation of previously inaccessible deposits, while maintaining consistent production levels over extended periods. The Roman iron mining operations in Britain, established following conquest of 43 AD, transformed economic landscape of province while providing crucial raw materials for imperial military and construction needs. The Forest of Dean, with abundant iron ore deposits, became major production centre, supplying iron throughout Western Empire. Archaeological excavations revealed Roman mining installations with sophisticated drainage systems, ore processing facilities, and transportation networks moving finished iron products to military bases and urban centres. Roman mining techniques in Britain incorporated innovations maximizing ore extraction while minimizing labor costs and environmental impact. Roman engineers used water-powered machinery to operate bellows systems for smelting furnaces, while hydraulic mining techniques enabled extraction of ore from hillside deposits using controlled water flows. The Noricum region, encompassing parts of modern Austria and Slovenia, became renowned throughout Roman world for producing highest quality iron and steel available to ancient metallurgists. Noric steel, known as ferrum noricum, was specifically sought after for weapon production due to superior hardness and edge retention characteristics. Roman writers, including Pliny the Elder, praised Noric iron for exceptional quality, while archaeological analysis confirmed Noric steel achieved carbon contents and microstructures rivaling modern tool steels. The production techniques developed in Noricum incorporated innovations in furnace design and heat treatment, creating steel with properties superior to contemporary products from other regions. Noric smiths developed quenching techniques using local water sources, achieving optimal hardness distributions, while their forging methods created weapons and tools, maintaining sharp edges through extended use. The social and economic impact of Roman iron production transformed communities throughout empire, creating new forms of specialization, urbanization, and commercial exchange, connecting distant regions through integrated production networks. Roman ironwork communities developed sophisticated guild systems regulating training, quality standards, and commercial practices, while imperial administration provided legal frameworks protecting intellectual property and maintaining trade relationships. The decline of Western Roman Empire during 5th century AD occurred through complex processes involving military pressure from Germanic tribes, economic disruption, and administrative breakdown, undermining technological and organizational systems sustaining Roman power. The loss of territorial control disrupted supply chains, providing iron ore and finished products to Roman armies and urban centers, while breakdown of imperial administration eliminated coordination, enabling large-scale production and distribution. The Visigothic conquest of Spain in 418 AD severed Roman access to Spanish iron mines supplying Western Empire for centuries, while Vandal control of North African territories eliminated another crucial source of raw materials and finished goods. The progressive loss of mining regions forced remaining Roman territories to rely on increasingly limited local resources, while breakdown of transportation networks made it difficult to move materials and products between production centers and markets. The survival of Eastern Roman Empire, later known as Byzantine Empire, demonstrated continued viability of Roman technological and administrative systems when supported by adequate resources and territorial control. Byzantine iron production continued employing techniques developed during earlier imperial period, while Byzantine engineers maintained engineering capabilities enabling continued construction of fortifications, aqueducts, and monumental architecture. The persistence of Roman technological traditions in Eastern Empire provided continuity influencing medieval European development for centuries. The transformation of Roman territories into Germanic kingdoms during 5th and 6th centuries created opportunities for technological synthesis, combining Roman engineering knowledge with Germanic metallurgical traditions and social organization. The Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy maintained Roman administrative structures and technological capabilities while incorporating Germanic military traditions and political practices. Archaeological evidence from Ostrogothic sites reveals continued iron production using Roman techniques alongside distinctively Germanic weapon and tool designs. The Frankish kingdom, emerging in Gaul during 5th century, incorporated Roman ironworking techniques into Germanic social and political structures, emphasizing warrior culture and decentralized authority. Frankish smiths produced weapons combining Roman metallurgical sophistication with Germanic decorative traditions, creating hybrid technological traditions influencing medieval European development. The famous pattern-welded swords produced by Frankish and other Germanic smiths represented technological achievements equaling or exceeding Roman weapon-making capabilities. The Anglo-Saxon settlements in Britain during 5th and 6th centuries established new ironworking traditions combining techniques learned from Roman craftsmen with innovations adapted to local conditions and Germanic cultural preferences. Archaeological excavations at Anglo-Saxon sites revealed ironworking installations employing Roman furnace designs while producing distinctively Germanic weapons and tools. The continuity of iron production in post-Roman Britain enabled Anglo-Saxon communities to maintain technological capabilities, supporting territorial expansion and political development. The Lombard conquest of northern Italy in 568 AD created another Germanic kingdom, maintaining Roman technological capabilities while adapting them to Germanic social and political structures. Lombard smiths continued producing iron tools and weapons using Roman techniques while developing distinctive artistic traditions combining Germanic and Mediterranean influences. The preservation of Roman engineering knowledge within Lombard territories enabled continued maintenance of aqueducts, roads, and urban infrastructure, sustaining economic activity and population concentrations. The legacy of Roman iron technology extended far beyond chronological boundaries of empire itself, influencing medieval European development through preservation of technical knowledge, production techniques, and engineering capabilities within successor states and religious institutions. Monasteries throughout former Roman territories maintained libraries preserving Roman technical treatises, while monastic workshops continued employing Roman ironworking techniques for construction and craft production. The Benedictine monasteries, spreading throughout Europe during 6th and 7th centuries, became centers for technological preservation and innovation, maintaining continuity with Roman traditions while adapting to medieval conditions. The technological preservation efforts of Benedictine monasteries represented just one facet of complex transformation occurring across Europe and beyond, as classical Iron Age gradually gave way to what historians later termed early medieval period. This transition, spanning roughly from 400 to 800 AD, involved not merely political fragmentation of Roman Empire, but fundamental changes in how societies organized production, understood technology, and conceptualized their relationship with material world. The boundaries between Iron Age and medieval civilizations proved far more fluid than traditional periodization schemes suggest, with technological continuities persisting alongside dramatic social and cultural innovations. And the gradual nature of this transformation becomes evident when examining persistence of ironworking techniques across political boundaries and cultural divisions. In former Roman territories of Gaul, Frankish smiths continued operating workshops employing furnace designs developed during imperial period while incorporating decorative techniques derived from Germanic artistic traditions. Archaeological excavations at Merovingian sites like Lavoyer in northeastern France revealed ironworking installations demonstrating clear technological continuity with Roman practices, including use of water-powered trip hammers and sophisticated bellows systems, maintaining consistent temperatures during extended smelting operations. Frankish development of pattern welding techniques during the 6th and 7th centuries exemplified technological synthesis occurring throughout post-Roman Europe. Pattern-welded sword blades, created by forge welding multiple iron and steel rods together before folding and twisting the composite bar, produced weapons with distinctive watered patterns on surfaces while achieving superior mechanical properties through controlled distribution of carbon-rich and carbon-poor iron. The production of pattern-welded blades required metallurgical knowledge combining Roman understanding of heat treatment with Germanic innovations in composite construction techniques. The technical sophistication of pattern welding demanded precise control over forge temperatures, timing of welding operations, and finishing techniques achievable only through extensive experience and systematic knowledge transmission. Master smiths producing finest pattern-welded weapons commanded enormous respect within Germanic societies, often enjoying status comparable to nobles and receiving patronage from kings and warrior elites. The famous swordgram from Norse mythology, described as having been reforged from fragments by hero Sigurd, likely reflected actual pattern welding techniques that could restore damaged weapons to superior condition. Simultaneously, eastern regions of former Roman Empire witnessed different but equally significant technological developments, maintaining classical traditions while adapting to changing political and economic conditions. The Byzantine Empire, centered on Constantinople, preserved Roman engineering capabilities while developing innovations in military technology, urban planning, and industrial organization, influencing European development for centuries. Byzantine iron production continued employing techniques derived from Roman practices while incorporating innovations learned through contact with Persian, Arab, and Slavic neighbors. The construction of Theodosian walls of Constantinople, completed around 450 AD, demonstrated persistence of Roman engineering capabilities within Byzantine Empire while showcasing adaptations to new military technologies and siege techniques. The rise of Islam during 7th century created another major force for technological transformation, profoundly influencing ironworking traditions throughout Mediterranean world and beyond. Islamic expansion brought Arab armies into contact with Persian, Byzantine, and Visigothic metallurgical traditions, creating opportunities for technological synthesis, producing innovations in steel production, weapon design, and industrial organization. The Islamic emphasis on learning and technological improvement provided institutional support for metallurgical research and development, advancing ironworking capabilities throughout Islamic world. Damascus steel production, reaching its peak during 8th and 9th centuries, represented one of most significant metallurgical achievements of early Islamic period. Damascus steel blades forged from Wootz steel ingots imported from India achieved legendary sharpness and cutting ability through techniques combining Indian raw materials with Middle Eastern forging expertise. The Crusades, beginning in late 11th century, created extensive opportunities for technological exchange between Islamic and European metallurgical traditions. European knights encountering Damascus steel weapons during First Crusade were amazed by their superior cutting ability and edge retention, leading to efforts to acquire both finished weapons and knowledge necessary for their production. The technological transfer occurring during Crusades influenced European sword-making for centuries, with European smiths attempting to replicate properties of Damascus steel using local materials and techniques. The agricultural revolution, transforming European productivity during early medieval period, depended fundamentally on improvements in iron tool technology, enabling more efficient cultivation of heavy northern European soils. The development of heavy plough, featuring iron ploughshares, coulters, and mouldboards, revolutionized agricultural productivity in regions that had been only marginally productive under Roman cultivation methods. Archaeological evidence from sites throughout northern Europe reveals gradual adoption of improved iron agricultural tools during 6th through 8th centuries, coinciding with population growth and territorial expansion. The iron plowshare designs emerging during this period incorporated innovations maximizing soil penetration and turning efficiency while minimizing wear and breakage during extended use. The three-field system of crop rotation becoming widespread throughout northern Europe during 8th century required iron tools capable of intensive cultivation across larger areas than previous agricultural systems. Iron harrows, cultivators, and harvesting tools enabled farmers to manage complex crop rotations and soil preparation techniques, maximizing productivity while maintaining long-term soil fertility. The increased agricultural productivity achieved through these innovations supported population growth and urbanization, creating markets for specialized craft production and long-distance trade. Monastic communities played crucial roles in preserving and developing ironworking technologies during transition from classical to medieval periods. The Benedictine rule established by Saint Benedict around 530 AD emphasized manual labor alongside prayer and study, creating institutional frameworks supporting technological innovation and knowledge preservation. The monastery of Saint-Denis near Paris, founded in 7th century, developed into major center for metallurgical innovation, influencing French technological development for centuries. The monastery's workshops produced iron tools, weapons, and architectural fittings using techniques combining Roman engineering knowledge with Frankish metallurgical innovations. The famous iron hinges and fittings produced at Saint-Denis for Abbey Church demonstrate metallurgical sophistication, equaling contemporary Byzantine and Islamic work while maintaining distinctively Frankish artistic characteristics. Irish monasteries, particularly those established during 6th and 7th centuries, preserved classical learning while developing distinctive approaches to metallurgy incorporating Celtic artistic traditions with Christian symbolism. The Carolingian Renaissance, initiated under Charlemagne during late 8th century, created institutional support for technological development and educational reform, influencing European ironworking traditions for centuries. Charlemagne's palace school at Aachen became center for learning preserving classical texts while encouraging practical innovations in engineering, agriculture, and craft production. The standardization of weights, measures, and currency throughout Carolingian Empire facilitated trade in iron goods while encouraging technological diffusion across political boundaries. The capitularies issued by Charlemagne and successors included detailed regulations for craft production, quality standards, and technological education, demonstrating systematic approaches to industrial development. The Viking expansion beginning during 8th century represented another significant factor in technological diffusion throughout northern Europe and beyond. Viking raids and trading expeditions created networks of cultural exchange, spreading Scandinavian metallurgical innovations while incorporating techniques learned from contacted populations. The famous Viking ships enabling their expansion required iron tools for construction, iron fittings for rigging and steering systems, and iron weapons for both offense and defense during voyages. Viking weapon technology, particularly sword production, achieved remarkable sophistication during 9th and 10th centuries through techniques combining Scandinavian metallurgical knowledge with influences from Frankish, Anglo-Saxon, and Slavic traditions. The transformation of ironworking traditions during transition from Iron Age to medieval periods involved not merely technological changes, but fundamental shifts in how societies understood and organized craft production. The guild systems emerging in many European cities during 9th and 10th centuries created institutional frameworks for technological education, quality control, and commercial regulation differing markedly from earlier Roman or Germanic approaches. These guilds preserved craft knowledge through apprenticeship systems while encouraging innovation through competitive pressures and market demands. The artistic traditions developing within medieval ironwork reflected synthesis of classical, Germanic, and Christian influences, characterizing European cultural development during this period. The decorative techniques employed on weapons, tools, and architectural fittings combine geometric patterns derived from Germanic traditions with figural representations influenced by classical and Christian iconography. As 8th century drew to close, foundations had been established for distinctive medieval civilization that would dominate European development for next several centuries. The ironworking traditions emerging through synthesis of classical, Germanic, and other influences provided technological foundation for agricultural expansion, urban development, and territorial consolidation, characterizing High Middle Ages. The institutional frameworks created by monasteries, royal administrations, and emerging guild systems ensured preservation and continued development of metallurgical knowledge, enabling further technological advancement. The legacy of Iron Age extended far beyond its chronological boundaries, influencing human civilization through technological innovations, social institutions, and cultural traditions persisting for millennia. The mastery of iron metallurgy had enabled development of more efficient agricultural systems, more effective military technologies, and more sophisticated engineering capabilities, supporting population growth, territorial expansion, and cultural development throughout ancient world. From Hittite secrets in Anatolian highlands to Roman legions at Cannae, from Celtic warriors in European forests to Bantu farmers in African savannas, from Indian woot steel to Chinese blast furnaces, iron technology had transformed human civilization. The political institutions, artistic traditions, and technological foundations established during Iron Age provided framework for subsequent civilizations, building upon these achievements while adapting them to new conditions and challenges. The transformation from Iron Age to medieval civilization represented not an ending, but continuation of human technological and cultural development, demonstrating enduring significance of innovations first achieved by ancient metalworkers who learned to extract iron from ore and forge it into tools, reshaping the world. Subscribe to explore how medieval smiths would push iron technology even further, creating the weapons and tools that would define the age of knights, castles, and cathedral builders, all built upon the ancient foundations laid by the first iron masters of the Hittite Empire 3,000 years before.